Hello everybody, welcome back to Weekly Wildlife Wisdom. As so far, I've been your host, Zero Yeti, and let's go get into it, with the first animal week being the Quinlan Panda. Also known as the brown panda, is a subspecies of the giant panda, which was discovered in the 1960s but wasn't recognized as a true subspecies until 2005. These pandas are restricted to the Quinlan mountain range of southern Shaanxi province in China, where they live in bamboo forests between 4,300 feet and 9,800 feet in elevation. Though they belong to the order Carnivora, giant pandas are folivores, with bamboo shoots and leaves making up more than 90% of the diet, with an individual panda consuming up to 30 pounds of bamboo a day to meet their nutritional needs. However, Quinlan pandas are also known to frequently supplement this diet with other grasses, roots, tubers, fruit, honey, eggs, and even meat in the form of fish, small birds, rodents, and carrion. Standing between 2 and 3 feet tall at the shoulder when on all fours, and measuring 4 to 6 feet in length and around 200 to 260 pounds in weight, Quinlan pandas are smaller than their common relatives. Other notable differences include the larger teeth, smaller skulls, and of course their distinctive coloration, in which the black patterning on which is common on regular giant pandas is instead replaced with a mixture of light and dark browns. Like other pandas, their paw has a thumb and 5 fingers. The thumb is actually a modified sesamoid bone, which helps to hold the bamboo while eating. Pandas were thought to have fallen into the crepuscular category, which means creatures that are active twice a day at dawn and at dusk. However, it has been found that pandas may belong to a category all of their own, with activity peaking in the morning, afternoon, and midnight. Due to their sheer size, they can be active any time of the day, and they are remarkably good climbers, often resting in trees or rock crevices to avoid harassment and potential predation from snow leopards, yellow-throated martens, golden eagles, feral dogs, and Asian black bears. Quinling pandas reach sexual maturity at between the ages of 4 and 8, and may be reproduct, reproductively active until the age of 20. The mating season lasts between March and May, and a female goes into estrus, which lasts 2 to 3 days, around only once a year. After a 95 to 160-day pregnancy, a female typically gives birth to 1 to 2 cubs. The cubs stay with their mother for around 2 years, and under ideal conditions, a queenling panda may live upwards of 20 years. Next up is the Tasmanian Giant Freshwater Crayfish, also known as the Tasmanian Giant Freshwater Lobster, or simply the Tasmanian River Lobster. It is a large freshwater crustacean native to the slow-moving rivers and streams of northern Tasmania, up to 1,300 feet in elevation. Here juveniles dwell within seasonal creeks and shallow, fast-flowing water, where they are at less risk from their predators, which include other crayfish, fish, platypus, and raccalli. As adults, they have no natural predators, and they tend to congregate in still, deep pools submerged under sunken logs and overhanging riverbanks. They feed primarily upon wood, leaves, fallen fruit, algae, small fish, insects, and carrion. Reaching upwards of 13 pounds in weight, they are by far the largest freshwater invertebrate, sporting a thick carapace which ranges in color from green and brown to blue and white. Males can be identified by their larger pincers when compared to females, and the breeding occurs once every 2 years, with females producing 220 to 1,300 eggs, which vary in size depending on the vary in the clutch size depending on the size of the adult female. Gestation of the eggs takes around 9 months, with mothers carrying the eggs on their tail throughout winter. After hatching in midsummer, the young remain with their mother well into autumn. Tasmanian giant freshwater crayfish have an extremely slow maturation rate, with females reaching sexual maturity at approximately 14 years of age and around 4.7 inches in carapace length, while males are thought to reach maturity a bit more quickly at around 9 years of age and 3 inches in carapace length. Young juveniles molt several times a year, and molting becomes less frequent as they mature. Under ideal conditions, the Tasmanian giant freshwater crayfish may live up to 60 years. Next up is the Philippine sailfin dragon, also known as the crested lizard, the sailfin water lizard, the soa-soa lizard, or the ibib, is an oviparous diurnal lizard endemic to the several islands that make up the Philippines, and is also found in New Guinea and some parts of eastern Indonesia. Here, the Philippine sailfin lizard lives in tropical wooded habitats near water, like rivers, riverbanks, and rice fields, as well as mangrove swamps and flooded forests. They feed upon leaves, fruit, flowers, eggs, insects, and crustaceans. Males are typically larger than females, reaching 3 to 4 feet in length and upwards of 5 pounds weight, compared to females at 2 to 3 feet in length and 3 to 5 pounds in weight. Their iconic sailfin crest is larger on males than it is females and reaches from the base of the tail to the lower part of the back, and is used not only to help with swimming, but is also thought to act as a territorial display, which assists in maintaining the body temperature. Sailfin lizards sport a parietal third eye atop their skull, which is used to detect light and maintain direction. As juveniles, Philippine sailfin lizards possess flattened toes along their feet, which enable them to run across water, similar to how the basket lizards of South America run across water. In terms of coloration, Philippine sailfin lizards are typically dark green or brown in color, often sporting yellow patches on the neck and back. However, during the mating season, the head and crest become a deep violet. After mating, female sailfin dragons may lay several clutches of 2 to 8 eggs in shallow holes dug into the soil next to bodies of water, but above the floodline. After around a 2-month-long incubation period, the young hatch during the rainy season. The Philippine sailfin dragons reach sexual maturity around 3 years of age and live upwards of 20 years under ideal conditions. Next up is the gray go-away bird, also known as the gray lori, or the kevuveli, kevuvevo, velo. It is a common bird native throughout Angola, the Democratic Republic of the Congo, Zambia, southeastern Tanzania, Malawi, Mozambique, Namibia, Botswana, Zimbabwe, South Africa, and Swaziland. Here they can be found in open woodlands and thorn savanna, especially near surface water. These birds get their common name from their characteristically loud and nasal kawe, or go-away, calls, with the last syllable typically a descending drawl. Both sexes are similar in size, measuring 18 to 20 inches long from bill tip to tail tip and less than 1 pound in weight. These birds have an almost uniformly smoky gray plumage with long tails and wispy back-swept crests on the head. These crests can be raised and lowered to communicate with other members of the species. The strong, decurved beak is black and the tongue is a strikingly pink. Although their flight is rather slow and labored, gray go-away birds can cover long distances over land. Once in open treetops, however, they can display remarkable agility as they run along tree limbs and jump from branch to branch. A social species, it is not uncommon to see flocks of 20 to 30 members working together to feed upon fruits, leaves, flowers, buds, nuts, seeds, snails, slugs, termites, and other insects. The breeding season varies from region to region, being July to August in Angola, April to November in Malawi, August to September in Zambia, December to April in Namibia, and all months in Zimbabwe and South Africa. During this time, both parents construct a nest out of thin, thorny twigs amongst the branches of a relatively isolated tree. Here the mother will deposit 1 to 4 near perfectly round white eggs, which are incubated in shifts by both parents for 26 to 28 days. When the young are 2 to 3 weeks old, they are able to clamber around the nest and into the surrounding branches. Young leave the nest at 23 days after hatching, but can fly after around 1 month. However, the parents still feed them for 40 to 45 days, and the young become independent at 7 weeks of age. Under ideal conditions, a great go-away bird may live to be 20 years of age. Next up is the giant pangolin, which is a species of pangolin in the family Smutsea, and is native to sub-Saharan Africa, where it can be found in scattered pockets throughout Central and West Africa, from Senegal to Ghana, Cameroon to Kenya. Here it lives in forested swamps, moist tropical wetland lowlands, and mosaic habitats of savanna, forests, and areas of cultivation where they primarily feed upon ants, termites, worms, and other insects, using their up to 16-inch long sticky tongue. Reaching upwards of 4.5 feet long and 70 pounds of weight, the giant pangolin is the largest extant species of pangolin by a fair margin. It sports a long snout, thick tail, and massive front claws, and like its fellow pangolins, this species is armored with large brown to reddish-brown scales formed from keratin. It supports most of its weight in its columnar rear legs by using its tail for balance. Uh, and by using its tail for balance, it can often walk upright as a biped. A nocturnal and elusive animal, the giant pangolin spends the day hidden deep within its burrow, emerging at night to search for food, both on the ground and in trees. If threatened, the giant pangolin will often roll up into a ball and protect its head and neck and soft underbelly, and they can also use their sharp scales and massive tails to slash at predators. Little information is available about the breeding habits of the giant pangolin. However, we do know the gestation typically lasts around 140 days, after which a single young is born. The mother nurses her baby for around 3 to 4 months, during which time the pango pup travels with its mother everywhere by riding on the base of the tail. Under ideal conditions, a giant pangolin may live up to 20 years. Next up is the common Plecostomus, also known as the sacramento catfish or the common pleco. It is a tropical freshwater fish belonging to the armored catfish family Loricoriidae. It is native throughout the tropical freshwater streams, rivers, lakes, and wetlands of northeastern South America, with the majority of their populations occurring in Brazil, the Guianas, Trinidad, and Tobago. However, due in large part to their popularity in the aquarium trade, they can be found as an invasive species in at least 17 countries throughout the Americas and Eurasia. Here they are primarily nocturnal bottom-dwelling fish that spends the day hiding around or underneath plants, driftwood, and rocks, emerging at night to feed upon aquatic plants, algae, fallen fruit, sunken logs, fallen leaves, worms, small arthropods, and carrion. Measuring up to 2 feet in length, these fish sport an underturned rasping mouth, small beady eyes, and an unarmored flat belly, as well as several longitudinal rows of armor-like scutes that cover the upper parts of the head and the body. Coloration may vary between local populations, ranging from a sandy brown to a dark black, with albino individuals being fairly common in captivity. Like other fish in the Loricoriidae family, common plecos have impressive fins and large dorsal fins sporting several strong ridges. The same goes for the tail, pectoral, and pelvic fins. In general, common plecos are a pretty easygoing species that get along with most other fish of similar size. However, they can be aggressive to members of their own species, especially during the mating season when pairs establish strict territories, with males typically creating a cave beneath rocks or inside of sunken logs. Once a male has chosen a cave to breed in, they will meticulously clean the sides and attempt to attract a female to the cave. If the female is enticed in by the male, she will lay around 100 to 200 eggs on the sides of the caves, where the female then leave. The female then leaves, with the male then setting about guarding the eggs until they hatch, which roughly takes around 4 to 10 days. Under ideal conditions, a common Plecostomus may live up to 20 years. And our extinct animal of the week is Glyptotherium, which is an extinct genus of Glyptodon, a group of extinct mammals related to armadillos that lived in the middle to late Pleistocene, approximately 1.8 million to 12,000 years ago. The first remains of Glyptotherium were unearthed by Henry Fairfield Osborn in 1903, who gave it the full species name Glyptotherium texicum after its place of discovery. Over the next century, hundreds more specimens would be found throughout Venezuela, Panama, Costa Rica, El Salvador, Mexico, and the southern United States, from Florida and South Carolina to Arizona, with 2 species being recognized today as being Glyptotherium texicanum and Glyptotherium cylindricum. Measuring in upwards of 6 feet in length, 4 feet high, and over 2,200 pounds in weight, Glyptotherium stored a shell which covered its entire body and was made up of hundreds of small hexagonal scales. The nasal passages of the skull was reduced, and the heavy muscle attachments may have sported a proboscis or trunk, much like that of a tapir or an elephant. The lower jaws were very deep and helped support the massive chewing muscles that helped it chew their preferred diet of coarse fibrous plants such as trees, roots, and grasses. The tail was covered in free bony rings of dermal structures that that made for a strong, flexible, and mobile weapon used to deter predators such as terror birds, wolves, short-faced bears, and saber-toothed cats, as well as to fight amongst other Glyptotherium for both food and mates. Glyptotherium lived throughout the wetlands, open woodlands, and grasslands of North, Central, and South America, preferring to graze near rivers and lakes until a combination of overhunting by humans and a changing climate eventually led to their extinction some 12,000 years ago. Take care to my guys, gals, and non-binary pals.